let's say that we have a book class that has two fields, title and the author. And in our main class, so what we do is we are creating two books. The first book is the title Advanced Java, and the author is Orkin. And the second book is also the title is Advanced Java, and the author is Orkin. So if we print these two objects, right, that we have created, book 1 and the book 2, what do you think? What will give us as a result? Let's run it and see. We are running it, and the result is false. The result of the equals operation, that are these two objects the same? It returns us false. Why it does it? Because when we compare these two objects, the way it's compared, that it compares that are these two objects. It's really two objects in terms of that when we create an object in the heap memory, we are creating an object. They are JVM compares that do these two pointers, book 1 and the book 2, are they pointing to the same object in the heap memory? So in our case, apparently they are not, right? Because we are creating two separate objects, book 1 and the book 2, right? So these are two different objects. That's why equals method returns us false. What we can do here, so what we are doing is, let's go to our book object. In our book object, in our book class, right, every class in Java, by default, it extends object class. Let's extend it, so it's implicitly extend, let's extend that explicitly. And if we go to the object class, right, so as we can see here, it has a lot of method. It says get class, hashCode, and the one of them is the equals. So what we need to do here is we need to override the equals method by telling that we need to exactly consider these book objects. We need to consider them to be equal if the certain fields are equal. For example, let me just copy paste this code because I've already prepared. So when we are overwriting this class, right? So when we are overwriting equals method, so what we do here, in our equal method, what we do is, first we are comparing that if the object that we have received, right, if that object that we have received, is that the same object? Is that the same object to the object that we are comparing? If that is, if they are, then it means that it's just the same object, we are returning true. The next comparison that we do here is we are checking that if our object is null, or if the class of that object, if they are not equal. So for example, let's say that the first one, right, this one is that this one is book, the class of this object is book, for the first one, and for the second one, it's a new book or something else. If they are not equal, if the classes are not equal, then in that case, we are returning false. Otherwise, what we do, we are casting the new object that we have received, right, for comparison with the existing object. So we are casting that to the, let's name it, let's say other book, and we are now we are writing a logic for comparing in which case we need to consider these two objects being equal. So for example, in this case, we want them to be considered as equal if the title and the author are equal. Let's say that we have one more, right? Let's say that we have one more field. Let's say we have, let's make it private. Let's say that we have ID, not ID, but let's say even we have ID, but we don't want to be this ID, right, to be included into equation. We only want to be these two objects, right, the objects to be considered as equal if the title and author is the same, right? So that's what exactly we are doing here. We are comparing that if the title is equals to title and the author is equals to other books author, then in that case we are returning true. After adding this equals method here, after overriding equals method here, if we go to the main object, our main class, and if we run it, it will return us true, right? It will return us true. That's the first one. That's why it's important always to, when we create an object, to override the equals method. So that's the first one. Now let's go to the second one. Let's say that, again, let me copy paste this code here, and so let's say that we have a set. And in our set, what we have, we are creating a set, and we are adding the first book to the set. And what we do is, after that, we are checking that if in our set we have, if our set already contains our book 2, right? Because this should return us true, because these two, we are considering them as a equal because they have the same field and they have the same author. So we, from our perspective, they are equal. So if we run this, it will return us false, right? It will return us false. The reason is that so the way that set works in Java, so it uses the hash table under the hood, and for that it uses hash code in order to choose in which bucket to store that object, right? In this case, the bucket that the hash code that it generates, in order for the hash code to be the same, we are going to do the same exercise that we did here, right? We are going to, in order for hash code to be generated the same, we are going to generate the hash code based on the title and the author. If the hash code is generated based on the title and author, then in that case, it will generate the same hash code, and they will be added to the same bucket, right? So if you want to know the details, like how hashset exactly works under the hood, how it exactly adds an object to the particular bucket, and what happens in case of the collision, I have a separate video where I go detail step by step how exactly that happens. I will include that in the description. So if we run this, right, now if we run, it will return us true, because the hash code that is generated in this case, we overwrite the hash code, and which now it's based on the title and author. So as far as we're concerned, they are equal because the title and the author is the equal, and we want our logic to work exactly the same way. It is important if we are using, let's say, an object, not a string, not an integer, as a key in the hash map, or let's say we are using that we are adding that into the set, then in that case it's important to overwrite the hash code and the equals. Otherwise, we might get unexpected results.